Hey guys, welcome to Guru Beauty. Jody here. I recently posted a video about my everyday MAC eyeshadow palette here. I'll include a link to that if you're curious down below. But I did get asked a lot of questions about depotting MAC eyeshadows. I feel like if I'm going to be posting videos about my MAC eyeshadows, I'll show you how I do my depotting. Up until recently in Australia, the only way that you could buy MAC eyeshadows was in the individual clamshell. They actually cost significantly more in this clamshell, and you may not need them if you're going to condense them all down into items like this. So I actually store my everyday MAC eyeshadow palette in a Z palette. It has a nice clear lid, which you can see. MAC actually have come out with a new palette with a clear lid, which is very handy and a little sturdier than the Z palette. So the problem remains for those who do have individual eyeshadows, whether it's MAC or NYX or any other brand, you can find a way usually to depot that product and condense them down into a palette like that. So I'm going to show you how I do that with the MAC eyeshadows today. So the items that you're going to need are obviously the MAC eyeshadow, also my old faithful friend, the rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. This is the brand that I've been able to find in Australia. There are others available, I've been told. I find this at just about any pharmacy or chemist here in Australia, but I've been told Bunnings also carries rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. Just look for the green bottle in the chemists. I find that this does a really good job, whether it's for cleaning brushes, whether it's for fixing broken powders. I posted a video recently how to use this product to fix broken smashed cosmetic powders, blushes, eyeshadows, that kind of thing. I'll include a link to that down below. But the other thing I use rubbing alcohol for, besides cleaning up sticky adhesive, is to depot my eyeshadows. I've got a safety pin today, and then I usually have some kind of a knife. Today I've got a nail file, and then besides the palette itself that you're going to depot the eyeshadow into, you're going to need some kind of magnet. So I've got this magnetic tape. I think I bought it from Kmart a while ago, the craft or stationery section, but you could go to Lynn Craft, Riot Arts and Crafts, Kmart, Target, and look in the stationery or the arts and crafts section. You should be able to find magnetic tape or magnetic circles somewhere in your journeys. It's what's going to help your eyeshadow stick to the Z palette if that's what you're depotting into. And then the last item is some kind of form of heat. So I really like the convenience of a straightening iron. I'm going to show you what I'll do with that later. And just for your information as well, NYX individual eyeshadows can be depotted. They are a little bit more difficult than the MAC, and I find that they are more susceptible to breaking. So a lot of my depotted NYX eyeshadows do have, you know, cracks and chunks taken out of them. They're not expensive, so that's fine. I can still definitely use them. And then of course I do have that video showing how you can repair a smashed eyeshadow if it gets that bad. So let's get started with this MAC eyeshadow. The first thing I'm going to do is go in with the alcohol. What I'm going to do with the alcohol is basically get it into the metal pan to try and loosen up the adhesive that sticks the metal pan to the plastic that it sits in. What I'll usually do is pour a bit of the alcohol into some kind of container. This has a nice handy lid, and then I'll get a safety pin, and I'm dipping it in the product just enough to get a drop of that isopropyl alcohol, and I'm fitting it between the metal pan and the plastic that it sits in. And I'm making contact with the very, very tip of the pin with the drop of alcohol to the gap, and I'm working around the whole circumference of the metal pan. What that's going to do is carry that alcohol down to the bottom of the metal pan, and it's going to help dissolve the adhesive that's sticking the metal pan to the plastic. Do not worry if you get rubbing alcohol in your eyeshadow. It will absolutely dry off. Your eyeshadow will not be affected at all. The point of this is to get the alcohol down beneath the metal pan though, so concentrate on the gap. When you make contact with the pin, you'll find that the fluid just sort of disappears, and just have faith that that's disappearing underneath the metal pan. So what you'll notice with your MAC clam is that you've got a little round plastic disc that the metal pan sits in, and that clicks into this big round chunky clamshell. So the first thing we're going to do is take this round plastic bit out. Basically you just want to try and wedge something between the plastic pan and the plastic clamshell that it sits in. So I've just managed to get my nail in there. I'm going to use this nail file, and I'm going to just work my file in there until I hear that it's hitting the edge, and then you just pop it out. Now that can take a little bit of practice in itself, but just so that you can see, this is what you've got, the empty plastic packaging now, and then the individual plastic with the metal pan in it. So that's what we're separating from the pan. That can take a little bit of practice just to try and wedge in that little gap. Don't cut yourself with a knife. We've been letting the alcohol soak in there as well, so that adhesive is soaking away. We want to give that adhesive a little bit of help by warming it up, and that's going to help loosen it so we can pop this metal pan out of the plastic pan even easier. That's where the straightening iron comes in. Some people will use grease paper just so that nothing actually sticks to the metal pan. I find that I don't need it. What I'm going to do is just sit that on the plate of my curling iron, which is already very, very hot. I'm just going to sit it on there for about 10 seconds, 9, 10. And that's going to provide enough warmth without actually melting the plastic and creating a fire and creating smoke. Just enough warmth to loosen up that adhesive, which is already sort of soaking in our isopropyl alcohol. So the next thing we want to do is get another sharp device. A lot of chances to cut yourselves here, girls. Try not to burn yourself. If it's heated up too much with your straightening iron, just give it a few minutes to cool down. Now it's this point where you can do the most amount of damage to your eyeshadow. What I'm doing is looking around the pan for the biggest gap between the metal pan, somewhere where I can work my pin in. Now I can hear, as I put my pin down the side and start to sort of pull up, I can hear the adhesive coming away. This one is coming away really nicely. I just get my pin under there and you just take it out. You can feel that stickiness on the back of the pan as it comes free. I'm just going to set that aside for a moment because the last part of this is actually unsticking the label. So you may want to use greaseproof paper for that. I like to keep the label of the eyeshadow with my actual pan once I've depotted it. Warmth from my straightening iron is going to help with that. I'm just going to sit that label on there for about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Take it off. That's not enough to do damage to any plastic, but it's enough just to loosen up the label. I just get a bit rough with it. I just sort of work my nail underneath it and it usually comes off in one nice piece. So now I've got my eyeshadow, my label, which is curling here, and then I grab a little piece of magnetic tape. I'm just going to stick that to the still sticky, still warm metal pan. And you can trim that to size if you want. And then while everything's still nice and sticky, I'm going to stick my eyeshadow label back over. The labels are generally a tiny bit bigger than the actual metal pan. That's not enough to bother me, and it doesn't sort of hang out when you put it in your Z palette, so that's absolutely fine. Now if you're putting this in a MAC palette, they come with their own magnetic sheet in the palette. You don't need to add the magnet to the pan. If you're going to put it in a Z palette, you will need a magnet underneath there. So I've got the metal pan, the little magnet tape, and now the label. I know forever and a day that this is Sketch, and you'll see that it sticks nicely to my Z palette without sliding around. So that magnet tape is doing a good job keeping that eyeshadow in its place. I'll usually do a whole bunch of these at a time, and it's very, very quick. I'll sort of put alcohol on half a dozen of them, then I'll go through taking 6 of them out of their plastic casing, then putting them on the hot straightening iron, then working out the shadows, doing the magnetic tape. So you can work out a bit of a factory line, and you can see it's a very simple process as long as you don't cut yourself and you do take the time to sort of wedge out the eyeshadow without cracking it. It's actually very easy. Don't burn yourself, don't cut yourself, don't crush your eyeshadow, and you'll be happy as Larry. The other thing I wanted to mention to you about the empty MAC eyeshadow palettes is that depending on your store and their individual policy, you can return these clamshells without the metal pan in it. So I would pop that back in there, and you can return this back to MAC. For every 6 empties that you take to them at one time, you can choose from one of 20 lipsticks. In the Australian stores, they have limited it to a particular list of 20 lipsticks. I will include a link to my blog post detailing what those 20 lipsticks are down below in the description bar, but definitely worth saving these clamshells. If your store does not accept these empty clamshells without the metal pan, go to another store. My local one at Garden City here in Western Australia does accept these empty clamshells without the metal pan. It's definitely worth it. For every 6 of these, you can get a free lipstick from their list of Back to MAC lipsticks. And just coming back to show you guys quickly that it works the same not only for eyeshadow singles, but also for the baked, domed type mineralized eyeshadows, also the pressed pigments. They all work the same way. Just put the alcohol in between the metal and the plastic first, separate that little round plastic pan from the clamshell, and then pop it over heat and wedge it out. The baked domed products are on a clay disc, but they are still wedged out exactly the same with something like a pin in the side. They come out exactly the same, and this is not one of them, but now Z Palette actually makes a deeper Z Palette with deeper dishes so that you can put domed products like these mineralized eyeshadows, like the mineralized skin finishes, like the highlight Soft and Gentle, for example. All of those blushes, they can all be depotted and put into palettes like the Z Palette. Good luck in your depotting. If you do depotting any other way, I would love to hear from you what your method is, or if you have any questions, please do post down below. If I don't have an answer, I'm sure that someone will. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye.